Just a few more moments and then I will begin. Okay. Hello everybody and welcome to Integration Done Right using the Sentinel APIs. My name is Adam Denyer-Hampton and I am one of the pre-sales consultants for SafeNet. During this meeting, if you have any questions, please use the GoToMeeting window where you'll be able to click a button under yourself that says raise a hand or I would like to ask a question. At that point I will unmute you and we can have a dialogue. I'd like to keep all questions to the end so that we can have this slightly more organized. If you'd rather write your question than you would to speak over the telecoms, then please just enter in the comments or the questions window that you have in the same GoToMeeting panel. Okay. Welcome to the first Ask the Experts President for 2013. In this presentation, we will be focusing on the Sentinel APIs, including the most commonly used as well as some of the legacy APIs. Additionally, we shall discuss the whole concept of integration and automation, the challenges that are faced and that you may come across, as well as solutions and their overall benefits. Please see here the SafeNet social slide, which allows you to follow us on different types of media such as LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter. So let's take a look at the agenda and what we will be covering in a bit more detail in this session today. Firstly, we'll discuss the concept of integration, what it means, what we offer, and how the integration process helps us drive the bottom line for ISVs. We will also cover the challenges an ISV may face or be facing, or the reasons for wanting to make changes using the API. Then we shall discuss our approach, i.e. how to help with the Sentinel tools for integration. From there, we will go on to more details on the various APIs and go over the main features for each. We will then discuss the benefits in terms of faster integration, automation of internal processes and reporting. And then lastly, of course, we'll have a question and answer session. So here we can see we have three main areas which we're going to cover today. The first of the main areas is why integration and automation is so important. It basically refers to the process of incorporating and automating several disjointed systems into one, in our case, integration between existing ERP or CRM systems and the license generation system. This may also include delivery of application as well as client license integration. The integration process itself can be lengthier and require more man-hours than a manual process. However, at the end of the day, it does provide an added control where it matters most. So let's take a look at what challenges may be faced. Generally, R&D focuses on developing and maintaining an in-house solution. Since licensing is generally not a core competency for most companies, we often find there is a lack of support for multiple features in terms of flexibility and feature bundling. Not to mention that each customer request now becomes a full R&D process, again taking away the focus from R&D's core competencies. An additional angle that we must look at is the lack of knowledge and experience in terms of security and performance. and how increased security has a direct effect on protected application performance and its implementation as a part of the overall design. Lastly, it is key to remember that these in-house systems are not always future-proof, meaning that they are not built from the ground up and fall short in terms of generally managing all aspects from one platform. For example, the inability to interconnect with an existing ERP or CRM system. So we've looked at the challenges, and now we're going to look at the reasons. These reasons are relatively simple and straightforward and merely answer the challenges that I've just described. For the application integration, we see two areas. Integration with minimal effort. We would like to protect the application without the need to modify vast amounts of code. The second is to increase protection in the application itself, creating a strong binding between the application flow and the Sentinel protection key functionality, such as encryption of data within the key memory. For the back-office integration, we look at the performance and flexibility for use in conjunction with an existing ERP or CRM system to provide maximum flexibility and control over business processes. Secondly, we look at seamless end-user experience, the integration of new business processes into an existing user interface. So how is this done in reality? As an ISV can explore the APIs and web services and their behavior. They can generate code and directly put this code into their source code using our tools and samples. They can of course configure on-screen messages to indicate specific scenarios within an application for the on-premise client integration. So let's now look at the integration itself. The basic idea behind the various APIs revolves around integration and automation, overall system simplification, and reduction of costs. The idea is that we allow integration between various systems, ordering, ERP, CRM, license generation and delivery systems, the production side of things, and doing this through using a single tool. Using the APIs allows for shorter time to market, a reduction in costs, and an overall improved profitability. Key to all of this is being able to automate. This is where the interface between overall order taking and actual license fulfillment really makes sense. This simple integration can really reduce human error. For example, sending the wrong entitlement number by email. It can also improve the actual management and tracking of licenses, as well as the ability to report and bill accurately as everything runs from one system. So how does all of this information translate to the solutions that SafeNet provide? When we look at the actual implementation of license integration in greater detail, we see that there are actually two distinct areas. The first is the back-office integration, which I will explain in this slide. With back-office integration itself, there are two key components. First is the Sentinel EMS Web Services, which allows for integration of various Sentinel EMS functionalities into organizational management software, such as CRM. This is done via RESTful web services, giving the ability to manage the features, the products, and the entitlements, as well as the customers, using built-in commands such as get, put, post, and delete. The second component, which is an opposite of EMS, is the license generation API. This can be used together with an existing licensing software system and/or ERP CRM back-office system to provide maximum flexibility and control over internal business processes. This API is designed for sites that really have already got a licensing infrastructure in place or that prefer to implement an alternative to the Sentinel EMS solutions. Let's now look at the EMS Web Services in a bit more detail. Just to clarify, Sentinel EMS is SafeNet's back-office license generation and tracking tool. The EMS Web Services are designed to enable you to integrate various functionalities of Sentinel EMS in an organizational management software solution, for example, ERP or CRM. Through the use of the web services, it is possible to generate, manage and fulfill licenses in addition to providing a GUI for the user to communicate with the web server. We currently support use of EMS Web Services using Java and the C programming languages. Most of the operations that can be performed in the GUI version of EMS can also be performed using the web services. This allows for extraction of data as well as data to be pushed into our back office solution. The web services themselves can also be provided with added communication security, as it is possible to utilize SSL over port 443 on HTTPS, as well as requiring a valid session ID for each request that is made. Just to clarify, REST services are based on an existing design of HTTP. This architecture consists of clients and servers, where the clients initiate requests to the server processes the requests and returns the appropriate response. Requests and responses are built around the transfer of resources and their intended state. We can now look at the License Generation API in a slight more detail as well. This API can be used together with an existing licensing server and an ERP CRM back-office system for this integration. This allows for maximum flexibility and again greater control, as we stated earlier. It also provides the functionality required to generate and maintain Sentinel protection keys without the use of any back-office services that are provided by Sentinel EMS. All that is required are the License Generation API and the other systems to be integrated with it. This can be as simple or as complex as required. As I said earlier, there were two main areas for integration of licensing. We have just discussed the back-office integration, whereby licensing and the order fulfillment process goes through and uses the web services with a CRM or an ERP solution. And now we're going to focus on the second side. The second of the two license integration areas is the client license integration. Now this focuses mainly on the enhancement of client licensing functionality to improve customer experience and security. This can be implemented alongside the automation of entitlement production and management, as I stated in the previous slides. The integration of the APIs at the client level utilizes the following tools and APIs. The Sentinel Toolbox serves as a training and demonstration tool for the Sentinel APIs discussed either side. The Licensing API helps to enhance the overall protection of the protected application, as well as to provide extra licensing information to any given customer. The Admin API provides the functionality available in the Admin Control Center, also known as the License Manager, but as a callable API which can be integrated into any protected application. Now let's look at the Toolbox in some greater detail. The Toolbox application can be used to perform the following actions. We can display the source code generated for each function call. This generated code can actually be copied and pasted directly into an application and can be used in the original source code of an application. Additionally, you can manually evaluate each API implementation. This basically means that it is possible to test out each function as if you were using it with a protected application. As you can see in the slide, we support various programming languages, including C#, C++, and VB.NET. Here we can see a quick screenshot showing the GUI of the Toolbox application. On the left-hand side, you can see the three different types of licensing API. The Licensing API, the Admin API, and the License Generation API, also referred to as a LicGen API. Now we're going to look at the Licensing API in slightly more depth. This Licensing API refers to the Sentinel LDK, or as it was known, HASP technology. This API helps to enhance the overall security by introducing calls to a Sentinel protection key throughout the application's source code, basically binding the application's functionality to the protection key. Encrypted data can be stored either on the application itself or in the license key memory using this API. Additionally, the API allows for better management of various license-related functions. So, using the login call, the application can request the license and have the runtime and the protection key validate all of the license terms automatically. Also available are available licenses and session information, which all can be retrieved using the getInfo and the getSessionInfo calls respectively. We can also use the licensing API to detach from a pool of network seats using the license API. And also we can use the rehost of a license and install license updates using this licensing API. The rehost of a license is physically taking a license key that is bound to one machine and moving it to another machine. Sometimes this is for the purpose of decommissioning old hardware or for the purpose of transferring a license. In terms of individual options, the licensing API can help perform these additional functions. The first is the encryption function. This allows for the encryption or decryption of data buffers using an AES-based encryption engine in the Sentinel protection key. Another option refers to the memory functions. This refers to the memory location used by the application at runtime and information that can be used later to verify and identify the end user. This data can be dynamically replacing other data inside of the memory. It can be used for extra security and, as I said, can be used for verification of end users. Another option is the time functions. These, as the name implies, can be used to access real-time clock in a key to verify and validate the integrity of a time-based license. And lastly, the management function, which allows for the retrieval of information on system components. For example, the current login session or the status of a deployed Sentinel protection key or keys and the license updates. The last of the client APIs is the admin API. This API can be called to retrieve information from local or remote license managers and to perform actions on these license managers. I'll give you an example. Examining the configuration of a license manager installation, such as an explicit IP address of the remote license manager where a particular protection key is located, allows for the application to consume a license which would otherwise have been inaccessible. You can use the admin API in identifying a list of accessible protection keys, making it possible to retrieve all feature or product data from specific protection key or keys. And lastly, we can use the admin API to detach a license from one computer and use it on a different computer. This covers off both the back-office integration as well as the client-side integration. The key thing to remember is both can be done at the same time and both can be interconnected. This means that you could potentially implement web services in a client application to talk back to a back-office system such as a licensing system. And you could also use the client API in conjunction with the web services to perform most or all actions what I've described today. To finish off the integration and automation piece of this presentation, we are now going to look at the APIs available, including some of the legacy APIs. One of such APIs is the Runtime Installer API, and this provides a developer with the ability to integrate the runtime environment installation process into the installation of a protected application. This is achieved either by calling a C library during installation or by integrating a merge module into a customized installation process. The second API is the .NET Envelope API. This is the protection settings for an application, and these are typically specified using the Sentinel Envelope user interface. For certain settings, the .NET Envelope API provides an alternative method for applying protection Using this API, developers can specify protection settings for classes and methods directly in the application source code without the use of the .NET Envelope GUI. This is accomplished by employing a feature of the .NET framework which is known as the custom attributes. The .NET Envelope API provides custom attributes that simplify the overall protection process. The last of the .NET API is the .NET Envelope Runtime API. The .NET Envelope Runtime API helps implement secure license management using the Sentinel.NET Envelope, where methods are encrypted using an AES key which is derived from a specific feature ID chosen by an ISV at protection time. I'm now going to talk slightly about the legacy solution, so this would be the HAS Business Studio Server API. The HAS Business Studio API, Server API, provides developers with an interface for integrating Business Studio functionality into their existing back-office solutions. For those cases where an existing Business Studio or HASP SRM customer migrates to LDK, our latest licensing solution, and for those customers that do not wish to replace the back-office API, they can simply communicate directly with the EMS server. The DLLs do need to be updated and the source code needs to be recompiled, but without any real code changes. Sentinel LDK provides a web service interface to perform CRM or ERP actions in Sentinel EMS. However, ISVs who have worked with the Sentinel HAS Business Studio API, also known as BSS API, can take advantage of the Business Studio Server API for Sentinel EMS. This gives the benefits provided by Sentinel EMS while continuing to use the API calls in the BSS API. Thus, after migration to Sentinel LDK, it is possible to continue using your existing back-end systems without extensive modifications. The version of Business Studio API for Sentinel EMS is written in C# on a .NET framework. The last part is the Sentinel HASP activation. Again, together with various HASP runtime environment API functions, the Sentinel HASP Activation API assists developers in communicating with the Sentinel HASP Business Studio server. This, in fact, allows existing end users with a HASP CRM installed system to activate their software using LDK without the need, again, to change the code. We are now going to focus the rest of the presentation on the importance of adaptation and reporting. But first I need to explain what both mean. By adapt, we mean the ability to change market needs and, as a result, to reduce inventory costs. And by report, we mean license management and reporting as the direct link with an existing system and or database for tracking and or billing purposes. This completes the three areas we are covering today, but first let's go into the adapt and report in slightly more detail. Having a close integration through the use of the APIs allows for quick adjustments to any application offering, the ability to better serve existing customers as well as prospects based on their evolving needs. The process of adapting provides greater profit while reducing inventory costs and shortening time to markets. Again, as part of a close integration process, it is possible to quickly adapt to accommodate for new or additional business processes in an existing user interface without negatively affecting the overall look or feel of an application. Now let's look at the reporting. A better understanding is needed when using reporting of how, when, and by whom the software is being activated and used, and this information is used to improve the product and business decision making and capabilities. Linking your reporting and billing systems through a solid and accurate mechanism, ERP or CRM, helps to better manage paying customers in addition to truing up or squaring up with those non-compliant customers, which are either out of compliance deliberately or by mistake. Embedding the APIs at the feature level within any given application gives the ability to not only track activations and entitlement data, but to track the ongoing uses of features within an application over time. This data can be used to drive future decision-making, roadmaps, development, additional concepts, and the concept of scheduled reports allows for various organizational entities such as sales or product management, marketing or customer care to query various aspects from the licensing terms to the expiry of licensing terms for better management of customer relationships beyond the initial sale, thus increasing profitability and customer satisfaction. So we're coming almost to the end of the presentation. And one of the last parts of the presentation I would like to talk about is SafeNet's professional services team. This team is designed to help our customers and prospects integrate our API into their existing system. This could be back office integration with other CRM or billing systems. It could always be client integration, and it could well be integrating both together. The process for a typical professional service engagement that we provide is we assess the business goals and visions for any given customer. We then understand the business and operational processes, the requirements and use cases for any individual customer, and then we use this information to analyze and design solutions based on the requirements and use cases. Once we have all of this information, we can then even implement the solution on your behalf. Lastly, I would like to show you each of the areas within SafeNet. This includes all of our products as well as our services, and should you require any additional information on any of these products and services, I can arrange for a member of our team to contact you. As you can see here, we do specify each of the enforcement and back office solutions, and it's clear to reiterate that EMS can be used with RMS, it can be used with LDK, and it can be used with cloud. So this is where I'm going to take a breather and sit back for a second to see if you've got any questions for me. So I do have one question here. It says, what about RMS License Manager and API? So today I was specifically talking about the LDK and the HASP enforcement piece. We can again provide information on API integration with the License Manager. We have lots and lots of samples that we can use in order for you to query any License Manager server within RMS. I didn't cover it today. I'm more than happy to follow up with you if you have any further questions around that. We do have integration. So again, the back office piece integration is something that we do. But we can certainly take the RMS License Manager API question offline for you. Okay, I have a second question as well. Would it be possible to integrate with Microsoft CRM? Do you provide any how-to or how to do it? I'm assuming that's do it guides. We do. We have actually integrated, our professional services team have integrated some of our customers into Microsoft CRM. It's one of the more common CRM solutions that is out there today. We do have some collateral around how you would go about the CRM integration, and we can certainly, or I can certainly send you through some information on the web services that you can implement, and I can also pass you some information regarding our professional services team who may be able to help you with this integration. Okay. Okay, I've got a few questions on the chat window as well. I'll just pass to that. Okay, I've just unmuted. I think is it Klaus? Klaus, you had a question?
Klaus.
Klaus, yes.
Klaus. Uh, I'm curious if there's an example code for already existing like examples for how to implement it. It's like an easy step guide that you share somewhere, or?
So we do provide a lot of our documentation is freely available on the web, and we do provide a lot of those guides of how to implement integration. As I say, what I tried to do in this presentation is to keep the two integration types separate. If we're referring to client integration into the application, so this is adding that extra security and usability, then we do have guides on how to use the toolbox, and there's a lot of information on what each API does in the help files. If you're referring to the EMS back office side of integration into CRM, then we do provide in-depth integration web services information for LDK, for cloud, and for RMS, which are also again freely available on the internet. Which again I can provide you the links afterwards. If you again are finding more issues, perhaps with not being able to understand or not being having a clear understanding of the integration processes, then by all means, if you can just come back to me once I've sent you the email, then what I will do is I'll get someone to contact you and they can have a quick discussion about next steps and the way forward for you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay. So I've got one more question actually in the chat window. It says, what about Sentinel Pro API with C++? So again, Sentinel Pro, I'm not entirely sure what you mean. Do you mean Super Pro? That may well be the case. I think that may be the question. So if that is the case, I'll answer it based on that. So yeah, okay, thank you. So what about Sentinel Super Pro API with C++? So the actual integration process today, we provide Super Pro samples that you can integrate on the client application. Admittedly, a lot of the functionality that you have around Super Pro is about enabling, disabling bits and bytes inside of the memory of Super Pro, and there is less capabilities of implementing the API or integration of API on the client side. If you wanted to implement the Super Pro API or C++ on the client side, that's fine. But currently today, if you wanted to look at it on the EMS, the tracking, the back office side of things, we don't actually have a tracking technology today for licensing with Super Pro. If you do any tracking today, it would be something that you currently would be doing yourself, storing in a database. As always, if you are looking for extra functionality, you are looking for extra usability, then it would be recommended that an upgrade to a newer version gives you much better integration tools, samples for both the client and the back office side of things. I understand that there is a new version of the Sentinel LDK due out shortly, 6.4. Do you have any idea on release dates for this? Currently, I know we're in the final stages for the release of LDK 6.4. That I'm aware of. We're expecting this at the end of March, or around about the end of March. So this will be again available to download from the website for use with your existing HASP or LDK solution. It is again, if you would like to evaluate any of the LDK solutions or to try and implement any of the licensing APIs that we've spoken about today, please feel free to contact me. My details are on the email, and I'd be happy to put you in contact with the relevant people. Okay, I'll just have a look, see if we've got any more questions. Anybody else with? Okay. Just give it a few more seconds. Okay, just one more here. I have a customer that uses the legacy APIs and wishes to migrate. What does he need to do? Where should he seek for documentation? Right, okay, so as part of the installation DVD with all of our new software, whether it be HASP or whether it be LDK, you can find various migration guides, such as migrating from Sentinel HASP to LDK in the actual installation directory itself. Okay. I believe that is all the questions. I'll just leave it again one more minute and then I'll bring this presentation to a close. Again, if you have any questions after the presentation, I believe my details will be sent out after the presentation, so you can, you're more than welcome to ask me any questions. I might be able to give you a much more detailed response because I'll have more resources than I do at the moment. Okay, I think that covers everything. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending, and I hope you all have a very good day. Bye.